You were always his favorite. So tell me, why didn't he leave you the password? That sentence hit me like a slap across the face, and it came from my own cousin, Marcus, standing right in front of our uncle's coffin, smiling like he'd just won something. My name is Claire. I'm 34, I live in Columbus, Ohio, and up until 3 weeks ago, I thought my family was normal. Dysfunctional? Sure. Loud at Thanksgiving? Absolutely. But normal? My Uncle Ray was the quiet one, the oddball who never married, never talked about money, but somehow always paid cash for everything. None of us really understood him, but I did love him. Genuinely. I used to visit him on Sunday afternoons when everyone else was too busy or too proud to bother. We'd sit on his porch, drink bad coffee, and talk about everything and nothing. When he passed away suddenly from a heart attack, we were all devastated. Or at least, I was. What happened next showed me exactly who the rest of my family really was underneath all those Sunday dinners and Christmas cards. It turned out Uncle Ray had left behind over $2 million in cryptocurrency. No bank account, no will, just a digital wallet locked behind a password that only existed in one place, a handwritten letter he'd sent to the family months ago. A letter that had already been thrown in the trash, and that's when everything fell apart. If you were in my position right now, what would you do? Let me back up, because to understand how bad this got, you need to understand who Uncle Ray actually was. Raymond Cole, my mom's younger brother, was the kind of man who made everyone a little uncomfortable at family gatherings. Not because he was mean, he just didn't play the game. No small talk, no fake laughs, no pretending to care about your cousin's new car or your aunt's kitchen renovation. He'd sit in the corner, eat his food, and leave early. People called him weird. I called him honest. What most of the family didn't know, what I only found out after he died, was that back in 2016, Uncle Ray had bought a significant amount of Bitcoin and Ethereum when they were still basically worthless. He mentioned it to me once, vaguely, over that bad coffee on his porch. He said, "Claire, the smartest thing a person can do is put their money somewhere nobody else can touch it." I didn't think much of it at the time. I figured he had like a few $100 in some app. I had no idea we were talking about a cold wallet holding what would eventually be worth over $2 million. He never told anyone else, not a single person in the family, until apparently, 3 months before he died, he wrote a letter. The letter nobody wanted to read. Here's the part that still makes my stomach drop when I think about it. Uncle Ray had terrible handwriting, like genuinely illegible. Everyone in the family knew this. So when a letter arrived from him that summer, handwritten, naturally, most people glanced at it and set it aside. My Aunt Patricia, who received it at the family home address he still used, said she couldn't make heads or tails of it and assumed it was just Ray being Ray. Rambling, sentimental, she put it on the counter. Then at some point in the chaos of daily life, it got swept into a pile of junk mail, and then it got thrown away. None of us knew that letter contained the seed phrase, the master password, to his entire crypto wallet. We found this out from his neighbor, an older gentleman named Gerald, who Ray had confided in during his final months. Gerald didn't have the letter, but he knew it existed. He told us Ray had said, "I wrote it all down, sent it to the family house. They'll figure it out when the time comes." He trusted us. He trusted his family to care enough to read what he wrote. That trust was misplaced, not because of me. I never received that letter, never even saw it. But by the time Gerald told us what he knew, the damage was already done. The wolves come out. Uncle Ray died on a Tuesday in October. By Friday, my cousin Marcus and his older sister Diane had already contacted 3 different cryptocurrency recovery lawyers. I didn't even know that was a thing until Marcus mentioned it at the repast, our uncle's body barely cold, while helping himself to a second plate of macaroni and cheese. "We're exploring our legal options," he said, not even looking at me. "As the closest blood relatives on the paternal side, Diane and I believe we have primary claim to Ray's estate." I just stared at him. "Marcus, we're all blood relatives, and there is no estate. There's no will." he smiled. That same smile from the funeral home. Exactly, which means it goes to next of kin, and we've already spoken to an attorney. I felt sick. This was happening 3 days after the funeral. What followed was the most painful 2 weeks of my life. And I say that as someone who has been through a divorce. At least in a divorce, you expect the worst. You brace for it. With family, you never see it coming. Or maybe I was just naive. Marcus and Diane started calling family members, one by one, building alliances, framing it like protecting Ray's legacy, painting me as someone trying to grab what wasn't mine. When the truth was, I hadn't even made a claim. I just wanted to find the letter. I wanted to honor what Ray actually intended. My own mother called me and said, "Claire, maybe you should just let Marcus handle it. You know how he gets." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Let Marcus handle it. As if Ray's $2 million was a minor inconvenience we needed to manage around Marcus's ego. He always liked you more. And you know it. The cruelest moment came about 10 days after the funeral. Diane called me, not to talk, not to grieve, but to deliver a message. "We know Ray was closer to you than to us. We're not blind. But that doesn't give you any legal right to his assets. And if you try to interfere with what Marcus and I are doing, we will take this to court and we will tie it up for years. You'll spend every penny you have on legal fees fighting us. Is that what you want?" She said it calmly, quietly, like she was giving me directions to the grocery store. I sat there in silence for so long that she said, "Claire, did you hear me?" I heard her. Every word. And what I heard was the real Diane, not the cousin who used to braid my hair at sleepovers, not the woman who cried on my shoulder when her marriage fell apart. The real Diane who saw a pile of money and turned into a stranger overnight. I said, "I'm going to find that letter." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Good luck. It's been in a landfill for 3 months." The search and the first plot twist. I want to be very honest with you. At this point, I almost gave up. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not wealthy. I work as an occupational therapist. I have a mortgage, and the idea of going up against Marcus and Diane in court felt impossible. I cried for 2 days. I called my best friend at 2 in the morning and told her I didn't know what to do. But something kept nagging at me. Something Gerald had said during that first conversation. He'd mentioned that Ray had a system. That Ray never did anything just once, that he was meticulous, even if he seemed scattered. So I went back to Gerald. I sat on his porch, practically the mirror image of all those Sundays with Ray, and I asked him to tell me everything he remembered. And that's when Gerald said something that changed everything. You know, Ray mentioned he'd made a copy, said he didn't fully trust the mail. You know how he was. I stopped breathing. A copy? Where? Gerald thought for a long moment. He said he gave it to someone he trusted completely, someone who wouldn't throw it away. I drove home with my mind racing through every person in Ray's life. His neighbor, his doctor, oh no, his attorney. The same quiet, unassuming attorney he'd used for years for minor things. A lease here, a contract there. A man named Bernard Chu, who had a tiny one-room office on the east side of town and had known Ray since the 1990s. I found Bernard's number through the state bar directory. I called him the next morning. He picked up on the second ring, and when I told him who I was, there was a long pause. "Claire," he said finally, "I was wondering when one of you would call." The second plot twist. And the betrayal I never saw. Coming Bernard Chu had a sealed envelope from Ray. Inside was a copy of the seed phrase, along with a handwritten note designating his wishes. Not a legal will, but a clear moral directive. Ray wanted his assets split 3 ways. 1 portion to a local animal shelter he'd quietly supported for years, 1 portion to me, and 1 portion divided among the rest of the family. But here's what hit me like a freight train. Bernard told me he had reached out to the family after Ray's death. He had called the main family contact, my mother, and told her that Ray had left documents with him and that someone should come by. My mother said she'd pass along the message. She never told me. Not once. Not in any of the dozens of conversations we'd had over those 2 weeks while I was losing my mind trying to figure out what to do. She knew. She knew there was an attorney. She knew there were documents. And she said nothing. Because Marcus had gotten to her first and told her to let it play out. I sat in my car outside Bernard's office for 20 minutes before I could drive. I wasn't sad anymore. I was something colder than sad. I was done. The moment I decided to fight. I called a lawyer that afternoon. A real one, not a family friend, not a cousin's recommendation, someone I found and vetted myself. I told her everything. She reviewed Bernard's documentation and told me that while Ray's wishes weren't a legally binding will, combined with Bernard's testimony and the documented proof of the original letter's existence, we had a strong case for contesting any claim Marcus and Diane tried to make. She also told me something else. Your cousins have already filed paperwork claiming intestate succession. They filed 4 days after the funeral. 4 days. They had already been moving before most of us had even processed that Ray was gone. The rage I felt in that moment was something I don't have words for. These were people I'd grown up with, people whose children I'd bought birthday presents for, people who had eaten at my table, and they had spent the days after our uncle's death not grieving, but strategizing. Marcus called me that night. I don't know if he somehow found out I'd been to see Bernard or if it was just bad timing. But his tone was different, less smug, a little tighter. Look, Claire, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Maybe we can work something out, just between us before the lawyers make everything messy. I almost laughed. Almost. I said, Marcus, I'll let my attorney handle it from here. And I hung up. For the first time in 3 weeks, I felt like myself again. Here's what happened next, and I want you to hear this part clearly. Bernard Chu's sealed envelope became the turning point in everything. My attorney filed a response to Marcus and Diane's intestate claim, presenting Ray's documented wishes and Bernard's testimony. The moment their attorney saw what we had, the tone shifted. Fast. No more threats about tying me up in court for years. No more calls from Diane with that cold, quiet voice. Just silence. And then eventually, a settlement negotiation that honored what Ray had actually wanted. The animal shelter got their portion first. I made sure of that personally. The rest was divided according to Ray's note. Not perfectly legally, but everyone involved ultimately agreed because fighting it further would have cost more than they stood to gain. Marcus got his share. Diane got hers. And yes, I got mine. But I want to be honest with you. The money was never really the point. I haven't spoken to Marcus or Diane since. I haven't spoken to my mother in months, and that one still hurts in a way I don't fully have language for. The person who was supposed to protect me chose a side, and it wasn't mine. Healing from that is a different kind of work than winning a legal dispute. What I learned, what I carry with me now, is this. Grief reveals people. It strips away every polite layer, every practiced smile, every holiday performance, and shows you exactly who someone is when something real is on the line. I don't hate my family, but I see them clearly now. And that clarity, as painful as it was to earn, is something I wouldn't trade. Uncle Ray trusted people to be better than they were. I think he knew on some level that the money would cause chaos. Maybe that's why he left it in pieces. A letter, an attorney, a system, like he was testing something. Or maybe he just hoped we'd figure it out together. We didn't. But I figured it out anyway. So, am I in the wrong for fighting for what my uncle actually wanted, even when my own mother told me to back down? You tell me. Drop it in the comments because I genuinely want to know what you would have done. If this story hit you somewhere real, subscribe. Because every week I share stories about family, money, and the moments that show you who people really are. You don't want to miss what's coming next.